The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chase Report with Dom and Charles. And Dom, I've come up with a solution to the Middle East crisis.
Wow. Okay,
Yes.
because we weren't sure whether to talk about this
Yes.
time because the possibility to get it horribly wrong, even by our standards, seems quite high in this situation.
And also, we did actually attempt to record an episode just shortly before this episode, and it ended in such cancelable comment.
It didn't go well. It
ended in you going, I'm not even going to say that to you,
I
Charles.
don't want even going to record what I was going to record into a microphone. And it wasn't in any way like a wrong opinion. It was just an anecdote about my past, which has a weird connection to something awful that happened. That's all it is. I don't even have a bad opinion. It's just an unhappy coincidence.
Which neatly summarises the whole of the Middle East, really.
Basically. But no, Charles, you've thought for a moment and come up with a solution. I can't wait to hear it. The world is on tenterhooks. I'm sure that in the Situation Room in the White House right now, they're sitting there and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs,
They're listening in.
is just saying
To the Chaser Report.
Don't worry, Firth's got it.
Yes.
He's got a solution.
At last.
At last.
Yeah.
And you'll hear what it is, and I will hear what it is after this.
Well, it's worth the wait, Dom. I can promise you it was worth the wait.
Mr. President, at your service.
Which is, I think what we need to do to solve the entire Middle East crisis
This better not be Chaser merchandise, by the way.
is to put an Israeli flag on the Sydney Town Hall.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness someone's come up with a solution.
Yes, but the only problem is that the Lord Mayor of Sydney, Clover, who frankly has become a bit too big for her boots over the years, have scotched the peace plan.
She is getting too big for her boots. You know what happened earlier in the very same day, when Clover announced that she was going to oppose the Israeli flag being projected on Sydney Town Hall.
Yeah.
On the same day, she
Yes.
won a battle she's been going on about for many years. Clover Moore has been trying to get the Moore Park Golf Course, this is a golf course near the SCG in inner city Sydney, cut down from 18 holes to 9 holes.
Ah.
And the New South Wales government announced only hours before this that they were going along with her proposal, that they'd decided it was stupid, given that they've built, 10 to 20,000 new apartments immediately opposite the golf course,
Yes.
to have that much space being used only for golf in the dense inner city.
Yes.
And so having won and having, open up this new park that won't have any golf in it, Charles, it was a completely inappropriate use of public space.
Yes.
Not having golf.
Yeah.
She's been emboldened to stop the Israeli flag being
Well, you
projected.
could say that she felt that she'd won her own Gulf War.
God. Yes.
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 But she won the Gulf War and then she scotched peace in the Middle East. I think this is going to reverberate around the world because
Oh, it already has.
If that flag is not broadcast, there was such an opportunity there. It was a golden moment. I think back to, when was it? Yasser Arafat, Bill Clinton. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they...
the Camp David and all that
Yes.
stuff. It was the closest we came to peace. You know what didn't happen on that day? Two of them were there. It was
Yitzhak Rabin, was it? Or
Yitzhak Rabin was there. Yep.
Or was it
Yasser Arafat.
Shimon Peres? maybe?
I think it was Yitzhak Rabin.
Yeah.
Was there.
That's
The reason we
right,
can't
yes.
remember, you know why? It's because no one projected the Israeli flag.
On the
Sydney
town
Town
hall.
Hall.
Because I think what that would lead to is everyone in Gaza would just lay down their arms and would go, you know what, it's over. Sydney Town Hall has spoken.
Charles,
And,
it's worth
and the
noting.
Israelis would also go, you know what, why have we been fighting these Palestinians? Let's give them voting rights. Let's just invite them in. We can all get along because Sydney Town Hall has just put a flag, our flag, on their building.
Well, it's what they really want.
Yes, that's what they're fighting over.
People say it's all about territory, it's all about
No,
settlements and so
no.
on. It's actually about the right to see on Sydney Town Hall the Israeli flag. Now, Charles, it's worth reminding everybody that early in the conflict, within a day or two of it breaking out, of the atrocity committed by Hamas, all the horrible murders and kidnappings and so on, Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, had already decided to project, on the Sydney Opera House. We had already had the Israeli colours being projected. That, though, the Sydney Opera House is no Sydney Town Hall.
Oh, no,
It's
exactly.
a much lesser building.
Well, I think what happened was everyone in Israel and Gaza saw things moved a bit.
Yeah.
When they saw the Sydney Opera House.
Oh, it
lit up.
definitely helped.
Yeah.
It was very
definitely,
influential.
yeah. And then it was like, if there's just one more thing, if we could just get Sydney Town Hall on board as well,
That's right.
then peace will break out.
And they got the Australian Federal
Yeah.
Parliament. That already happened as
they
well.
got
But
that.
again, much less than building.
much less than the town hall.
I think
Yes.
when they built the Australian Parliament, it was the most expensive building in the world. I think it cost $1 billion at the time.
Right.
It's not the Sydney Town Hall.
No town hall. No.
And Charles, just picture, if you will, a kid in Gaza, as we say this,
know.
with no water,
Going to bed tonight.
no food, just feeling completely bereft, feeling abandoned by the world. The aid started to trickle through as we speak, but it's
Yes.
not nearly enough.
And then the mother has to come up to her as she's going to sleep, and she's already starving. She's really hungry. She hasn't had a proper meal in days.
All water, they're parched. But some things are more important than water, Charles.
And her mum whispers to her and says, "They're not letting them broadcast an Israeli flag on the town hall in Sydney."
I mean, hasn't that child suffered enough without hearing about the flag?
I mean, what hope do we have in the world if you can't even get that happening? It's for peace.
It's for peace.
Yeah, because broadcasting one side of a conflict's flag is always the most peaceful way to reach a peace
It
settlement.
really shows solidarity with both sides.
Yes, exactly.
Because, Charles, if you think of, for instance, the West Bank, unlike Gaza, it is basically controlled by Israel, the West Bank. So that's under the Israeli flag in many ways, even though technically there's a Palestinian flag.
Yeah, so in some ways, you're right. It's solidarity with Palestine by putting the Israeli flag.
Yeah, it does address both sides.
I see where you're going. Yes.
And so I'm just sad, Charles, that we chose to do podcasting in an audio medium.
Yes.
So we couldn't display the Israeli flag throughout the course of this episode.
It would have done a huge amount. I mean, Sydney Town Hall's one thing, but the Chaser Report podcast with Dom and Charles.
Okay, let's take an ad break. And while we do this, if everyone's just listening, just on your device, whatever device it is,
get out the Israeli flag.
If you've got a projector in your house or a TV handy.
Yes, or a town hall.
Town hall handy, yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
Or even just in your
An opera
heart.
house.
An opera house.
Yeah.
Even in your mind's eye or just in your heart.
Yes, in your heart.
Get up the Israeli flag and just plant it there.
Yes. Or if you've got a starving, dying child in a bed nearby, go and put an Israeli flag on them.
With a texter.
Yeah.
If you need to. Oh, you can just go and draw some on the wall, can you? While we just take this moment.
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
So Clover Moore doesn't want this to happen.
No,
She doesn't
I know.
want the flag on the town hall.
What is going on? I mean, what else can she now weigh into and destroy? I'm thinking that possibly the reason why climate change is just out of control and we've got the El Nino back.
Yeah, that's
is
Clover
because
as well.
because you saw what she did because we're in her local council area, and she refused to make part of the park a dog park.
Yeah.
And so I think that's climate change over, isn't it?
I mean, she's gone for so many years about trying to destroy petrol-powered cars and getting all the electric car stuff and building cycleways and all that. And that basically fixed everything up, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Climate change it's as good as over. There's actually an asterisk in the global figures saying that but for Sydney City Council, the numbers would be much, much higher.
You know the big problem with all the bike paths in the City of Sydney area, because I just on the weekend went out of the City of Sydney area.
No, don't do that.
Another council area. I find the huge problem with the bike paths around here is that they don't have enough Israeli flags on them.
That's true. They're green.
Yes.
They're covered in green. In fact, the green is almost, you know what, Charles? There's the
dear.
green and then there's the black
Yes.
bitumen of the road.
Oh, no.
If there was red there, and white, it would be red. Well, there's white lines.
Yes.
Not that far off the Palestinian
Yes.
flag. And no one's displaying the Palestinian flag.
Well, every time I fall off my bike and break my elbow,
yes, which you do regularly.
there's blood, so that's red.
But the thing that Israel really needs is just a few more people taking their side and only their side in this
absolutely.
conflict.
Oh, I think we all agree with that, yes.
And a lot of people have been saying more needs to be said.
Bassem Youssef,
Oh, yes, from the Chaser lecture. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful comedian.
he was on Piers Morgan the other day. Have you seen the video?
Oh, it's fantastic. Let's just play a bit so there's actually some satire in this episode.
I would say I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade, it's fine, you have done your job.
But what I like about him is he's very Clover Moore-like
Yes.
in his support of Israel, isn't he?
Can you imagine Clover Moore doing gear? I just can't. I've seen her speak a few times. It's just not a thing. It's just not a mode she has.
Nah.
Jokes.
She is about 120.
I think she's running again.
The reason why she's so anti-peace in the Middle East is because she's as old as conflict in the Middle East. So.
And I think she'd be older than
She's
State
older
of Israel.
than-
Is she
yeah.
older than the State of Israel?
Well, the state of Israel is 3,000 years old.
Depends how
Dom,
you define
so you
it.
don't want to get cancelled.
Depends how you define it. Yeah.
Look, to me, I think the issue is what next for, well, essentially the warlord of Australia, Clover Moore, because she's ruined peace in the Middle East. She's clearly on a path to destroy climate change by not doing enough about the bike paths.
Yeah. She's ruining fun. Is what
Yes.
she's doing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be harder to complain about noise pollution. Have you seen this? She's working in cahoots with the government. Again, they're going to make it so that if you buy a house next to a pub that has like gigs late at night, you're not going to be allowed to complain about the gigs.
You live quite near a pub.
Yeah.
There's gigs
yeah.
late at night.
Oh, no, because no one we live in such a boring area now and it's not open past 10. But I used to live on a street with 3 noisy pubs that were often open at 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
And of course I complained about them regularly.
Oh, well,
It was in the CBD.
You're a NIMBY.
Right in the CBD.
Yeah. You moved in right next to a pub and then complained about it.
Yeah, that's right.
And did it help property prices in the area?
No, they did very badly. But no, regularly at 3 a.m. the kind of windows would rattle with the sound of a gig, and I wanted to try and destroy that fun.
Yes.
And
well,
now you can't, not allowed to do that anymore.
at the beginning of this episode, I feel like I have overpromised a little bit on the promise of this episode, which is I said I've got a solution for peace in the Middle East. And unfortunately, because of Clover Moore, that's been totally ruined.
Well, we'll never know. Your plan, the Firth plan, and
Yes.
it's already being discussed by scholars of international peace movements.
Yes.
She's not going to allow it. So
Yeah.
we'll never know. So what else can we do? What's plan B here?
Well, the other solution that I had is, and I think this one would definitely work, is, and can you just now cut the podcast out and make it go to an ad?